You know those moments, right? Those real pressure cooker situations.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you're just staring at this mountain of work or something totally unexpected hits you, and it all just feels heavy, impossible.
Shoulders up by your ears, jaw tight.
Exactly. And you think, okay, I seriously cannot handle one more thing. And then, boom, something weird happens.
Someone says something perfectly timed, completely absurd.
Yes. Or you just see something so silly, and this little chuckle escapes. Maybe even, a real full-on belly laugh.
And it's like, just for a second, the tension cracks. That breath you didn't even realize you were holding, it finally goes.
It's an amazing feeling, isn't it? Almost like you found some secret reset button.
That's a great way to put it.
And that's exactly what we're doing today in this deep dive. We're unpacking the profound power of humor and laughter, which honestly, I think we often underestimate.
Yeah.
We're going to explore how just laughing isn't only about feeling good for a second, but how it actually builds real strength, emotional resilience, helping us not just get through tough stuff, but really bounce back stronger.
And our mission here is really to show how laughter works on a deep psychological and physiological level. It recalibrates things.
Okay.
It's this powerful coping tool that can shift how you feel, taking you from feeling powerless to feeling like you have some agency again. You get to own your experience a bit more. We'll dig into how.
Okay, let's do it. Let's start with that immediate impact. Because it's not just mental, is it? You mentioned physiological. It triggers real physical changes.
Yeah.
Right when you need them.
Yeah, it's fascinating how fast the body responds. I mean, think of it like this quick internal workout, but one that leaves you feeling super relaxed afterwards.
A workout. How so?
Well, when you have a really good laugh, you're taking in more oxygen-rich air.
Right.
So that stimulates your heart, your lungs, your muscles, gives them a nice boost.
Yeah.
But here's the really cool part. It ramps up the release of endorphins in your brain. Those are your body's own natural feel-good chemicals, painkillers even.
Endorphins, got it.
So initially, a big laugh might actually fire up your stress response a little bit, heart rate, blood pressure go up for a sec.
Really? That seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, but then, and this is key, it rapidly cools everything right back down.
Right.
So you get this rise, then this significant fall below where you started, leaving you feeling deeply relaxed, kind of serene almost.
Wow, okay.
Plus, laughter gets your circulation going, helps your muscles relax. All those things help melt away the physical tension you might be holding on to. The clenched jaw, the tight shoulders we mentioned.
Right.
And we can actually measure this stuff. Research shows a good, genuine laugh can lower your cortisol levels. That's the main stress hormone for up to 45 minutes.
For 45 minutes. That's significant.
It really is. It's not just a fleeting feeling. It's a measurable biological reset. It gives your whole system breathing room, like hitting restart on your internal stress meter. That's a pretty powerful tool to have, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. That immediate physical relief is huge. But, okay, what happens when the stress, comes back? Or it's a longer-term thing? How does that quick fix turn into something more lasting? How does it build that deeper resilience you talked about?
That's the crucial next step, right? Connecting the immediate relief to the bigger picture. And it really comes down to perspective and reframing.
Reframing, okay.
Yeah. Laughter gives you this incredibly valuable psychological distance from problems that feel overwhelming. It lets you step back, get a bit of air, and see things maybe in a slightly different light.
How so? Like less intense.
Exactly. Maybe less personal, less all-consuming, sometimes even highlighting the absurdity of the situation, which is why, a lot of therapists actually use humor strategically.
Oh, interesting. In therapy sessions.
Yeah. It helps clients gently detach from painful thoughts or stuck patterns without minimizing the issue. There was this one study, I think in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine, that found people who consciously use humor to cope with stress. They tend to be more adaptable.
More adaptable.
And they generally experience lower levels of depression, and they're actually better at solving problems when things get tough. So it's not just about feeling better for a moment, it's about fundamentally changing how you approach the challenge itself.
Okay, so it's not about pretending the problem isn't serious. It's more about how we carry it. Is that right? How do you make sure you're not just using a joke to avoid dealing with the tough emotions?
That is such a critical point. It's not about minimizing the pain or the seriousness. Absolutely not. It's about choosing how much weight you let that difficulty have in your mind and your body.
Choosing the weight. I like that.
Think of humor as a mental cushion. It softens the blows life throws at you. It helps you recover quicker, not because you denied the hit, but because you absorbed some of it differently. It's really about empowerment, taking something that feels huge and maybe shrinking it down a bit,
Yeah.
making it feel more manageable. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust.
Yes, incredible story.
He really got this. He said something like, humor, more than anything else, affords an aloofness and the ability to rise above any situation, even if only for a few seconds.
Wow. Even for a few seconds.
Yeah, and that ability to just momentarily rise above, that gives you a sense of agency back. It's like regaining a little control over your inner world, even when the outside world feels totally out of control.
That makes sense, that inner control. But, resilience often feels like like a solo journey, something you build inside yourself. But you're hinting at something else, aren't you? How does shared laughter fit into this? Is it like a team sport sometimes?
That's a really insightful way to put it, because resilience often isn't a solo act. It's frequently built in community with others.
Okay.
And laughter. It's one of the most powerful social glues we have, seriously. When you share a laugh with someone, you're creating this instant connection.
Mm-hmm.
It signals safety, it builds trust. It's like this unspoken message, hey, we're on the same page here. We're in this together.
Right. I can see that.
And its power gets amplified in really tough times, in moments of crisis. Think about groups that deal with extreme situations regularly. First responders.
Yeah, paramedics, firefighters.
Exactly. Military personnel, ER staff. For those groups, shared humor isn't just nice to have, it's often crucial. It strengthens their bonds, builds that camaraderie, that sense of belonging.
That must be vital for getting through intense experiences.
Absolutely. It sustains people when they're facing really profound adversity. It's like a collective exhale, A shared understanding that says, you're not alone in feeling this. I've seen it work wonders in high-pressure teams. Just one well-timed shared joke can totally shift the energy and reconnect everyone.
That really resonates, especially thinking about those high-stress jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but this brings up another point. Humor isn't all the same, right? There are different flavors. Let's talk about that, what makes something funny, and maybe especially that tricky one, dark humor.
You're totally right. Humor is definitely not monolithic. Dark humor, or gallows humor, as it's sometimes called, it usually pops up in really precarious, even dangerous situations.
Yeah, situations where maybe laughing feels wrong, but people do it anyway.
Exactly. It reflects difficult realities, often without trying to be cruel, even if it sounds harsh out of context. It might seem odd, but it serves a real purpose. There's this idea called the benign violation theory that helps explain it.
Benign violation. Okay, break that down.
So the idea is that humor often happens when something violates a norm, right? Something unexpected or a bit off, a transgression.
Okay.
But, and this is the key, it's also perceived as somehow acceptable or harmless, benign within that specific context. And importantly, the person laughing feels some psychological distance from the actual violation.
So like slipping on a banana peel is funny because usually no one gets seriously hurt. It violates walking normally, but it's benign.
Exactly. It violates the norm of walking upright, but it's usually harmless. A serious car crash isn't funny because the harm is real. The benign part is gone. Context is everything. What's benign in one situation could be deeply malicious in another.
Got it. So it's that tightrope walk between breaking a rule and it still being okay, depending entirely on who's involved and the specific situation. That makes a lot of sense. And it helps explain why dark humor works so well for those groups facing tough stuff together.
Precisely. Dark humor often creates bonding because the people sharing it understand the unique, often harsh context. It's a way of acknowledging the absurdity or the horror that an outsider just wouldn't get.
Right.
There was this really interesting study looking at U.S. military veterans and how they used humor. It added some important layers to this.
Oh, yeah. What did they find?
Well, they found that using more self-defeating humor, constantly putting yourself down, maybe to fit in or get a laugh, that was actually negatively linked to well-being.
So always being the butt of your own jokes, if it's genuinely self-critical, might actually harm you.
It seems so in this context anyway. And interestingly, what they called aggressive humor, making fun of others, maybe in a mean or alienating way that didn't show any relationship, positive or negative, to well-being in this particular study.
Huh. That's not what I would have expected. So for these veterans, it wasn't about making fun of others, but maybe more about how they used humor towards themselves. What did help their well-being then?
The big takeaway wasn't just what kind of humor, but really who you share it with. Is it building real connection, or is it tearing you or others down? For these veterans, the strongest positive link to life satisfaction was feeling connected.
Connected to.
Connected to their fellow veteran and active duty friends, and also to their civilian friends. That shared understanding, that social bond within their community, that seemed crucial, regardless of the specific type of jokes.
That makes sense. The community aspect again.
Exactly. And here's another interesting bit. For this specific group, feeling connected to family was actually found to be unrelated to their overall life satisfaction.
Really? Unrelated?
Yeah, which doesn't mean family isn't important, of course. But it suggests that the bond formed through those shared intense military experiences was uniquely powerful for their well-being in this context. Now, it's just one study, self-reported data, specific group.
Sure, limitations always apply.
Right. But it really highlights that power of shared understanding and community, often expressed through humor, especially in extreme situations.
That's a really powerful insight about shared experience. But it makes me wonder, does everyone see humor the same way, across different cultures? Because what's hilarious and bonding for one group might totally fall flat or even be offensive somewhere else.
That is a huge and critical question. The cross-cultural perspective is fascinating. If you look at, say, the typical Western view, humor is generally seen as a positive thing, right? A common trait.
Yeah, like being witty or charismatic.
Exactly. It's valued. You see politicians using jokes, people use banter. But then you look at, for example, the traditional Chinese view, which is heavily influenced by Confucianism. Historically, it's been quite different.
How so?
Humor was often kind of devalued, seen more as something for professional comedians, not really for everyday people. Confucian ideals favored dignity, social formality, not really hilarious laughter. A thoughtful smile was more the preferred expression.
Wow, that's a major difference.
Yeah.
One values wit, the other values composure.
It's a striking contrast, and it fundamentally changes how humor is perceived and used. This isn't just theory. Research backs it up pretty clearly.
Like what?
Well, studies have shown Hong Kong participants, when subtly prompted with Western cultural symbols, actually rated humor more positively. But when prompted with Chinese symbols, they rated it less positively. Canadians tend to rate humor as more important and see themselves as more humorous than Chinese participants do. It gets even more specific. Chinese students often associate humor with, unpleasant words and seriousness with pleasant ones. That's often the opposite of what American students report.
The opposite.
Yeah. Even Chinese kids are more likely to see humor as potentially aggressive or disruptive. And this plays out in coping, too. Chinese individuals generally use humor less often as a way to cope with stress compared to Canadians.
So these aren't just small differences. They really affect communication, how people connect, how they handle difficulty.
Profoundly. It goes back to that idea from Lin Yutang, learning to laugh at ourselves comes from a kind of broad-minded detachment. And it seems some cultures historically just cultivate that type of self-effacing humor more than others. It's a skill, maybe even a cultural value.
Okay, this has been incredibly insightful, looking at the immediate effects, the resilience building, the social side, different types like dark humor, and now the cultural lens. So for you listening right now, how can you actively bring more laughter and resilience into your own life, regardless of your background? This isn't just theoretical stuff, right? We can actually do things.
Oh, absolutely, not just theory. This is very practical, very actionable. First off, consciously put humor on your horizon.
What do you mean by that?
Be intentional about seeking it out. Surround yourself with things that make you smile or chuckle. Put up funny photos, maybe a greeting card that cracked you up. Keep comic strips visible on your desk, the fridge, whatever.
Okay, visual reminders.
Yeah, and have a go-to list. Funny movies, TV shows you like, books, podcasts, comedy specials online, things you can turn to easily when you need a lift. Maybe even, check out a local comedy club sometime.
Actively seek it out. Got it. What else?
Second, try keeping a funny moments journal. Seriously, just take a couple of minutes each day, jot down something amusing that happened, a quirky thing you noticed, something that made you laugh, even just internally.
Like training your brain to notice the funny stuff.
Exactly. It helps rewire your brain to spot and appreciate humor more often. It becomes more automatic, like building a muscle. It makes humor a more consistent part of your daily landscape.
I like that. Okay, one more.
And maybe the most important one, learn to laugh at yourself, but always with kindness. That's key.
Kindness, right? Not self-criticism.
Precisely. Self-deprecating humor is great when it comes from self-compassion, not from beating yourself up. Practice laughing gently at your own mistakes, your quirks, your imperfections. And remember what we said earlier. Even a forced laugh can start those beneficial physical responses. So sometimes just starting the motion can help. It's not about being perfect. It's about finding lightness in being human.
That's really helpful. Seek it out, notice it, and be kind when you laugh at yourself. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it really strikes me that laughter is so much bigger than just, entertainment. It's this vital, complex tool for resilience. It gives that immediate physical relief we talked about. It helps us reframe challenges psychologically, and it strengthens our connections with others. It helps us navigate hardship with more strength, deeper connection, and maybe a clearer head.
Absolutely. The most resilient people aren't usually the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who manage to find moments of joy, or at least lightness, even in the struggle. Humor, ultimately, is a really profound form of resistance against despair.
That's powerful. Resistance against despair. So we've covered a lot of ground, given some practical steps. What's the final thought, the big idea you want our listeners to really chew on from this whole discussion on humor and resilience?
I guess my final thought for you, the listener, is this. The next time life throws one of those inevitable challenges your way, just pause. Take a breath, and ask yourself honestly, where's the humor in this? It might not magically change the situation itself, let's be real, but it can absolutely change how you experience that situation. And sometimes, that shift in experience, that different perspective, that's exactly what makes all the difference.